everyone, I'm Jody Stokes Familetti, the fitness expert at Lifescape, and I'm here with Dr. Mo, and the subject matter we'd like to discuss today is osteoporosis. Now, you may or may not know that accidental falls can lead to death as we age. How do we prevent that? We also lose muscle after the age of 30, almost 2/3 of our muscle. And we also lose about 10% of our balance every decade after 40. So I'm here to talk with Dr. Mo today about how we can identify this with our clients, what kind of measures we take, and if in fact there are some clients that can actually look into how they're feeling about the potential of osteoporosis. So I'm going to kick it off to Dr. Mo, and he's going to explain a little bit about what he does.
Thanks, Jody.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Excited to be with you and chat about this topic too. Very important topic. Definitely our bone health and muscle health, like you mentioned, that is super important, and we continue to strive to find out how we can keep strong and keep going. So, and we know definitely that osteoporosis, or we'll just call it weakness in the bones, are more prominent in ladies. However, in men, when they do occur, the fractures that comes with them are more intense and severe. So both parties need to pay attention,
Right.
certainly.
Right.
We usually have an optimal bone density around our 30s, and then at 40 and after we start losing bone density. So really important to address that. There is certain means to be able to screen individuals, and so there's guidelines for ladies who are around 65 and postmenopausal to be screened with bone density scan. Now, if there are not 65 but they've reached menopause and they have certain risk factors, that could also be enough for that to be a need for them to be screened. And for men, there's no specific guidelines for age. Some, argue that 70 might be good, but it seems to be that the consensus is that around our risk factors is what basically defines it. And so we're talking about all these risk factors. What are they? And so I would say age is a big one. Definitely if you are thin framed, if you are someone who smokes, or if you drink excessive alcohol or caffeine, or have a great deal of salt or sodium in your diet, if you're on certain medications like steroids, certain antipsychotic medications, certain medicines for blood thinners, and obviously being deficient in certain nutrients. Smoking, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
And what
have you seen?
some breast cancer medications have come into play too that have or any cancer medications that have debilitated the bone, parts of the bone.
So there's a particular score, it's called the FRAX score, that's in addition to the bone density scan that we can do for our patients, that gives us a sense of a 10-year estimate percentage of the risk of fracture, which is also another nice thing to look into. I don't want to cut you off, but you can share some more.
I was going to say that sometimes the problem with some medications and some things that we're taking time off from, well, we'll get to the exercise portion in just a second, but sometimes taking time off from exercising from medications or an illness or an accident can also cause the bone density to weaken, right? And so as we age, we want to be even more careful with how we're taking care of our muscles and our bones as we age. So
absolutely, and that's a great point to be added. And I know you work with a lot of clients who are trying to optimize their mobility, stay strong, stay vital, and so
longevity.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Tell me, what are some lifestyle changes and exercises that you promote and like about optimizing osteoporosis?
Well, the most important thing as we age is that, like we said, we start to lose bone density, we start to lose muscle strength, and they coincide. There is a trajectory with both of those that coincide. So I have been working with clients at any age actually to lift heavy weight. Training has been researched and known to actually help prevent, and it actually helps the bone grow. So while we're also focusing on balance, because we don't want to have a fall, I will work with heavy weights to focus on balance, which is actually, a functional move. You want to be able to get up off the ground without having to use your legs or your thighs or a table or something that could help, assist you in falling, which is what you don't want to do. And it's not just the lower body. that you're working on. It's the upper body too. Our greatest human strength or superpower as a human is being able to hold something. And I'm the type of person that brings in absolutely all the groceries in at one time. So I might have a client hold a couple of 10-pound weights and see what their strength is while they hold that. Grip strength is important too, but being able to hold 2 10-pound weights for an extended period of time also denotes and shows, you know, what kind of strength we have. And then we might pulse through it to, you know, a little bit of uncomfortable tension. I like to refer that to, but there are a multitude of activities that we can do to help promote the bone strength and the muscle strength. And I must show Dr. Mo those in just a second. Yeah, he's going to be the patient. And he's tall, so he's got a long way to go when he does the squat.
I was going to say, we do check strength. So we do the caliber test, actually check in our patient's muscle every year. And so that's a nice thing. And I've heard about rucking. Can you share? I don't know if you're pronouncing that right, rucking?
I don't know much about rucking, so explain it to me and then I can elaborate on that.
So so basically it's wearing a backpack.
Okay. Rucking.
Yeah,
yes.
Some pronunciation.
You're reading Dr. Adia? Dr. Peter, yes. He's big rucking, yes.
Yeah.
So they're adding the weight bearing activity to their sport.
Yeah.
So, well, Dr. Peter Atiak, if I can mention him, he's got a book on longevity, and I'll read anything about anyone that has anything to do with longevity. Even the Blue Zone Project has been a big thing for me, which is longevity to be in the centenarian years. If we, that's a goal. Right. So he's a big, well, first of all, he was a cyclist, and he wants to compete in the centenarian, you know, triathlon someday. So he likes rucking. He finds that by putting an extended amount of weight, not too much. There's two parts to this. First of all, if you can handle between 15 and 20 pound weight on your back without it being arduous for your back, then you're okay. Or hard on your knees. You want to be very careful with any extra weight that you're carrying while you're walking, but it does increase your heart rate, which he's a big fan of too. VO2 max isn't related to osteoporosis, but so I've also known a lot of clients that have taken maybe a 15-pound pack and have, you know, climbed up a mountain, and it helps with stability. It helps with, I don't want to say mobility, but it helps with strength while you're actually trying to climb up a hill or down a hill. Absolutely. It has you keep your balance.
Yeah, right. I like the fact that it actually is a spinal load. So as we know, the most common areas of fracture or risk of osteoporosis is the lower back, our hips, and wrist. It doesn't really help much with the wrist, but definitely the lower back and the lumbar area and also the hip is loaded with this kind of fairly safe backpack. It's just not one-sided, left-sided weight. So I love that about it, because you can, like you said, you know, customize the weight and also make sure you're stable and proper.
Your spine is,
so that's great.
And not compressed. You're right about all of in fact, most of I think the tests we do start with the shoulders, the pelvis, right? The shoulder region, the pelvic region, right? And the spine. Isn't that most of the tests that we take from that?
Correct. The wrist, the lower back, and the hips, correct. Yeah.
So I encourage that unless you have any kind of depletion in your spine or any kind of degenerative disc, you know. And each individual is different. I call what I do intuitive training. So each person is going to have a different, based on their biomechanics, right? And any possible orthopedic limitations that they've had in the past. Right. So while we might be weight loading and doing heavy weights, it's completely independent on someone's mechanics and what they've been through.
And this is basically Jody's saying that check with your doctor, check with your therapist, check with your trainer,
check with your therapist. Always check with your therapist.
Make sure that whatever exercises we're discussing here from an educational perspective is not necessarily advice for you unless it's the right fit for you and you've confirmed with the specialist that takes care of you.
Absolutely, yes, absolutely. So. If someone doesn't necessarily know what to do with an exercise program, or they think that they might have the symptoms of osteoporosis, what might you encourage for them to do with vitamins or minerals or something that they can take?
Absolutely. So be very important for us to obviously have the screening to know someone's got the diagnosis of osteoporosis, and then also connecting them with you to make sure that they get the right exercises and work on weight resistant exercises and optimize that. But there's certain areas I like to look at. One is nutritional assessment, making sure that all the nutrients, the minerals and trace minerals that we need to have in our body are there, and we have a testing that we do that we look at that. Another one is your hormones,
Okay.
hormones like testosterone, estrogen, your thyroid. These are very important, and often if they're missed or they're deficient, can play a role, particularly in bone and also muscle health. For particularly estrogen has evidence for both, so we want to address that. And then definitely looking at your nutrients that you have in your diet. So there's an article, and we'll include this link on the video, but there's a study that was published that looked at certain nutrients that are pro bone building.
Okay.
And so some of those being dill, parsley,
Okay.
some delicious herbs that are really helpful for cooking, and including those garlic, onions,
Okay.
and more. So there's about 25 of those that
Very
are on that
good.
list. There's also a book that's put together by a husband and wife. It's got a 12-week protocol for osteoporosis that
Okay.
you'll have people read. They're going to get more education. But when it comes to diet, anti-inflammatory diet's been shown to be the best option for you. There's, the belief is that there's low-level chronic stress and inflammation that's present, that's causing the bone building process to be halted or slowed as the bone destruction on kind of reconstruction of the bone is being kind of revved up, and so that's causing more of the bone loss as we age through the years. So
Okay.
really finding out if you have inflammation in your body and also addressing that will be helpful. And so there are certain foods that really provide us with adequate amounts of calcium. So animal products is great. However, it does cause the body to be more on the acidotic side of the your acid-base balance in your body. So incorporating fruits and vegetables, your legumes, greens, leafy greens, nuts is really helpful to kind of balance that, so you can make sure that you don't lose the calcium because you're having animal products. So having a nice mix would be helpful. And obviously, if you are checking your levels and if you're deficient in certain nutrients, some of the examples of things that we check that play a big role in mineralization of the bone are vitamin D, calcium, vitamin C, collagen, boron, manganese, magnesium, zinc, and more.
Which
So,
a lot of these fruits and vegetables have in them organically. So we're talking holistic and organic. And the Institute of Functional Medicine, because I get clients that will say, well, how many servings or things, right? And the Institute of Functional Medicine encourages you to have 9 to 13 servings of fruit/vegetables a day.
And many of us struggle to get that.
It's tough to get. I think the average American has 3. So I tell my clients that a serving is a handful. It can be a handful of blueberries, or and try to vary all of your fruits and vegetables, and all of everyone doesn't always know exactly what has manganese or selenium in it. They just don't. So that's our job to kind of help with that. Or you can Google that.
And we have that. Yeah, we have those
Good.
lists, and we actually have all that information for patients. And Dana is great.
Dana is our
great addition
nutritionist.
to our
Good.
team. So
Good.
that's what I love, a collaboration between us, so that we can make sure our patients get the same message and reinstate the importance of nutrition and lifestyle for sure.
Perfect.
Well, thank
Can I show you a couple of exercises?
Absolutely,
Would you like to do
yeah.
that?
Yeah.
We're gonna show some exercises here, which will end the rest of the video. But we want you to please give us a call or plan a consult through Lifescape Premier AZ, and let us know if you have any additional questions or would like to plan coming in and looking at our facility.
All right, so one thing I wanted to cover was osteoporosis, and as far as bone density and the diagnosis of osteoporosis. So someone who is a young adult, healthy, they've got healthy bone, would be the center on the ideal bone density. And then we've got individuals who are diagnosed with osteopenia, or mild weakness in the bone, and those are about 1 standard deviation away up to 2.5 standard deviation away from the normal range of a young healthy adult bone density. And if you're outside of that window, which is 2.5 standard deviation or further weaker bone, you are in the osteoporosis category. So the goal is to bring you to the center, to kind of be closer to that mid-range and be healthier. But we're going to talk to Jody today about some exercises that can give us closer to that goal.
All right, so the first exercise we're going to do is a squat. So while Dr. Mo is very, very healthy and works out, we're going to work with his biomechanics and just show you a little bit of how we work with the functional moves. So we're going to start with a squat. So I'm gonna have you kind of face this way, Dr. Mo.
Okay.
Very good. So first we open up our hips, our feet to hip distance. Yes. The goal is to make sure that you sit back into the squat, and you want to make sure that your knees do not extend out over your toes. Yes. So we sit into the squat, we hold, and we come up. And when we come up, we also want to do what's called an external rotation with the hip. So you're squeezing from the inner thigh and wrapping around to the outer thigh. And what I mean by that is don't just do the exercise, feel the exercise. So as you're down, now you're working what's an eccentric motion on the up. You're fighting gravity. So concentric on a squat would be pressing down. Okay, now we're holding and having to fight against gravity by pushing up. So we're feeling the down and we're feeling the up. Let's see one more. Go ahead and sit it all the way back. Very good. Sitting into the heels, the toes can come up a little bit and then coming all the way up. Very good. Okay, with a lunge, we're gonna put your right leg forward and your left leg back, way back. You got long legs, Dr. Mo. He's got some long legs. I'm just gonna move the camera just a smidge. You can see his legs right there. So on this particular exercise, I like to lift the back heel up off the ground. Yes. And we're gonna make sure that that front knee does not extend out over the ankle. So here's what I do. I try to get 90 degrees of a bend in the back when we are down, and I try to get 90 degrees in the back. So I'm gonna adjust him based on his biomechanics after I see a lunge. And I want him to lean back a little bit. So he's going to squeeze his left glute, which is a leg that's behind him, to keep him stable. If he starts to lean forward, then he may start to fall. So if I can keep him in an upright position, the likelihood of him being able to go down and up without being wobbly is going to probably happen and be more effective. So go ahead and drop that back knee down, lean it back, and then come straight up. Here's your eccentric, fighting gravity. The concentric on the down, trying to get the knees at 90 degrees each way and up. So I'm gonna have him scoot his back heel back about another inch because that right knee is starting to go over the ankle. I'm gonna have him lean back a little bit. Focus on using the glute. Why? Because the glute is what's gonna pull him up off of the ground. And we wanna try to make sure that he doesn't use his thigh to get up. He's got great form, great work, but go ahead and switch legs so we can, make sure it's equal and opposite so he's not, So let's see from this angle. You can see a little bit better maybe. Lean it back, right heel's up, squeeze that right glute, and then come up. You got it. Down and up. Also, another important factor is that he's moving between slow and fast. For example, I mentioned our superpower is holding groceries. So I'm gonna have you come up with a simple bicep curl. Good. And then I'm gonna have you lower it down. I usually like to keep the elbows in the front part of the body. Why? Because the bicep is actually located in a frontal plane. So we lift up. We do not ever have to take the weights up too high because then your elbow joint's overriding the activity as it's your fulcrum. So we want to go about till you feel it. So intuitively, do you feel it there or higher?
Yeah.
Right there. I'm going to have you do one more and I'm going to have you hold it in the spot where you feel it the most, right here. To the oscillating exercise, we're going to pump it for 8. Right. So this enables you to work those muscles that are holding groceries that much more, right? You have to fight it. You got to hold it and you got to focus. So that's the basic bicep curl, the squat and the lunges, and that's how we start with all of our basics.
And I love that because that actually helps with the wrist as well,
And
which
the
is one
wrist.
of the fracture sites.
Exactly.
Very good.
Exactly.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, well, thank you for joining us, and I appreciate you tuning in. We had a great time, and thank you, Jody, for showing me some moves and
Dr.
ways of
Val.
exercising.
Yes. You won't be sore tomorrow, but you may be doing them a little bit differently now.
That's right. I
Yes.
appreciate it. I love a good form, and always beats going up on the weights anytime. So please let us know if there are other topics you would like us to cover. Message us and let us know, and we'll be here for you.
I'll leave the information at the end of the video. If you need to get a hold of Lifescape, I'll leave the number for you. And thank you so much for joining us today.